What's up, Mark? What up, tubers? Your old pal Jackhammer Mike. Not really. How's everybody? Irina. Did you hear fumbling sounds? Yeah, I was fumbling. So how are you today? How are you doing, Rena? Where are you located? I've probably asked you a dozen times. I apologize. Idaho. It's getting that hot there, huh? You sure you're okay? Yeah, I know you are. Oh, dear. I'm sorry to hear that. Well, I hope you take comfort in that, Rena. Yeah, he must have been pretty sick. So earlier today, when I'm at work, I have a lot of time to think. And so I have all this stuff that I want to talk about or whatever. And then I get home and I turn on this and I just draw a blank. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it'll all come back to me. I'm doing okay, Rena. So that's pretty unusual to have the temperature that hot in Idaho, isn't it? I mean, I know it does get warm there. I spent a lot of time in Idaho in another life, and I know it gets hot and it gets cold. But I think from what I understand, pretty much the weather all over the place is, I don't know, a little unusual. What's it like in your neck of the woods, Rena? Is it hot or cold? I suppose I could look. Yeah. I'm showing 78 where you're at. It was actually pretty mild here when I went outside this morning to go to work. It seemed pretty cool, actually, for here. I think it's only like 97 right now. So it is a little cool here. Yeah, the weather is very strange all over the place, from what I understand. But yeah, I was going to talk about spiritual attacks and spiritual warfare, but I had a whole lot of thoughts on the whole thing. But like I said, sort of don't really remember everything that I was running through my head. Hail in Colorado. Vacuum sealing in Texas. So much going on. So I have this cactus. Actually, I got it before I moved. My mom bought it for me. And it was just like sort of just like your typical cactus shape, pretty small. And since I've been here, it's growing really weird. I've actually this whole part here and this part here. That's all since I've moved. And like a week ago, this tall one was only about half as tall. Now, I don't know. It's growing really weird. It looks like a swordfish. I don't. I hope this widens out. Otherwise, it's not going to be able to support it. It's weird the way it's shaped right now. But I don't know if it's something about the weather here. This thing's doubled its height, but it's super skinny. So I don't even know if this is healthy. Hopefully it lives. I'm not very good at keeping things alive like this, so I don't know. I'm hoping it lasts because I like it. It's just suddenly growing very quick. I thought cactus grew really slow, but mine's taken off, and it's just shaped weird. It looks bizarre to me. But fingers crossed. I don't know why it's suddenly growing so quickly. What do you think, Nick? Do you think I'm going to kill it? Yeah, it would be interesting to know if those seeds I sent you, if they the cactus grows, that'd be cool. I should probably go to Dollar Tree or something and get a couple of things and start planting some seeds myself and see what happens. I don't have anything to plant in right now. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll take that cactus and put it outside for a while. It's just such a bizarre shape right now. But yeah, I'm trying to remember what I was going to say about the spiritual attacks and this and the warfare. I know that there is. I don't know if you want to call it like a realm or a dimension. I don't. Whatever term you want to use. There's basically there's a world around us that, for the most part, we don't really ever see. I think sometimes we get a glimpse into it, but I'm a believer that there is a war going on in that realm. I don't know if it's right next to us or if it's right above us, but I think there's like some bleed over. And sometimes we see pieces of it, and sometimes I think we're actually involved. And I know that on more than one occasion, I don't know if I've really been attacked. I've always been pretty strong as far as not allowing stuff to mess with me. I did have 2 sleep paralysis instances that were. If you've never suffered an episode of sleep paralysis, it's very humbling, because I think in your mind you always tell yourself, like, especially if you're like, you hear about like a alien abduction, and these people talk about how they were paralyzed and they couldn't do anything about the things that were taking place. It's the same with sleep paralysis. People wake up, they can't move, they can't speak. And I think, like, our ego sometimes, you sort of think like, if that happened to me, I'd scream, or I'd do this, or I'd, if I saw something, I'd punch it in the face, or I'd yell Jesus, or call out to Christ. Or I'll tell you what, when it actually happens to you, because I thought that way too. I was like, if that ever happened to me, I would just, call out in the name of Jesus, and it would all stop or whatever. And I have never tried harder in my life to like move a finger, like, or make something come out of my mouth, a scream, a word. I could not. I think after what seemed like forever, but it was probably 20 or 30 seconds. I think I was finally, with everything I had, I was able to sort of make just like a sound. Probably came out like, like that's pretty much, that was it. I was fighting it with everything I had, and there was something in front of me. I could see it there. It was black or dark, but it was see-through. It reminded me of like a see-through black curtain. And I couldn't say anything and move, but I think at one point towards the end, I'm trying to remember, because it's only happened to me twice, but it happened within like a week, both times. And I'm trying to remember. I think the second one was the worst. One of them was worse than the other. One of them was almost like, I almost got the idea that like someone was testing to see if they could like lock me down, or whatever you want to call it, paralyze me. And I think it was the first one. It didn't last very long, and it confused me more than anything else. I wasn't sure exactly. I think rather quickly I sort of came to the conclusion that, oh, that's what sleep paralysis, or that's what that's all about. but it was relatively short. It wasn't really terrifying. It was more confusing. The second time was the one that was pretty damn scary, because I knew what was happening, and I really, really was trying as hard as I could to fight with everything I had just to move like a finger or to say a single word. And I think the harder you try, the more anxiety builds up, because you start thinking, man, what could they do to me? Because like I have I can't do anything. I can't say anything. I can't, I can't throw a punch. And like I said, I saw this. I could see everything in my room, but it was like behind this dark veil. It was like this black gauzy curtain I was looking through. And then I think at the point where I realized that I wasn't going to be able to say anything or move, I thought in my mind, something like, in the name of Jesus Christ, be gone, or whatever. I thought something like that. And when I saw this like black darkness in front of me, it moved a little bit. It was kind of like, I don't know, wavy, like heat lines kind of. And when I thought that, it lifted like a curtain. Like I could see it just lifted, and it was lighter behind it. So it really was like watching a movie theater curtain raise up, but it was a curtain that it was like you said, like gauze. Like I could see through it, but as it lifted, everything got lighter and came more into focus. I don't know where I was going with this, except that, that's like the only really spiritual attack I've really experienced. I've experienced other things where, like the opposite end of the spectrum, where I think either Jesus or an angel basically pulled me out of a situation that would have killed me. That when I look back on it, there's just no real excuse as to why I wasn't either killed or really, really messed up. And each time I literally came out without a scratch, and it doesn't make any sense. One time there was actually like, I described it as like a time jump, but it was more like I was in one spot and then like I was driving. So on two occasions, but the main one, the first one, it was like I got a heads up. In my mind, I saw this car changing lanes and just swiping me broadside. But there was no car there, but I saw it. Like it happened. It was like, it looked so real. It was the daytime. I was driving it down a highway from, I think I was driving south towards Santa Fe, New Mexico one day. And I literally saw a car just next to me, just change lanes and broadside me. And then like a minute later, there was a car. And so I was looking at it because it was just like, wow, this guy's going to change lanes and hit me. So I was watching him, and he did. He just pulled, like he didn't even look. But I was watching him, waiting for it. So as soon as I saw him start to move, I hit the brakes, and he swerved right in front of me. He would have hit me. But the one that I should have died was I was driving to New Mexico one night, late at night. I'd been on the road for like 24 hours. I'd been driving forever. And I was in the mountains in southern Colorado. And I just remember it was very, very dark. Like all you could see basically was my headlights. I couldn't see shit. It was so dark. And I came to this small town. I still don't know what town it was. And there was like a stop sign or a light or something. So I stopped, and then it turned green. So I took off, and I had a U-Haul trailer behind me. So I was probably, from my bumper to the back of the trailer was probably like 20 feet total. So it was pretty long. So I start going down this mountain road in the dark, and it was not long after I had left that red light. So I was probably going like I said, I was hauling a trailer. So I was probably going like 45 miles an hour. And I saw this motion off to my right, and I turned my head, and there was this buck with these big antlers. It was a full-grown buck. I mean, this thing was big, and it had huge antlers, and it was just storming right at me. It was on the side of the road, but it was literally, if I would have been a passenger in my car and rolled the window down, I could have reached out and like patted this thing on the head. And like our eyes locked. Like I looked, and it was just, he was coming. This thing was 2 feet from my passenger window, and it was coming full steam. And I knew there was nothing I could do. And so I remember I turned to the left, and I put my arm up because I knew there was no way that he wasn't coming through that window, horns and all. And I turned my head, and nothing happened. And I looked in the little mirror next to me, and this buck was standing behind me in the road, looking at me. So it had like 3 feet to go before it impacted my vehicle. And like I said, I was probably going 45 miles an hour. Somehow the entire length of my vehicle, the entire trailer hitch, which on the U-Haul, it's probably from the trailer hitch to the back or the front of the U-Haul, 4 or 5 feet. And then I had like an 8-foot trailer. Somehow that deer touched none of it when it only had 2 steps to go, and it was going to be inside the front of my vehicle. And I remember when I looked in the mirror and he was standing, it's like he had just run up to like where I was in the road and stopped, and then just looked at me. And I looked, and I could see him just standing there with these big horns, just standing in the middle of the road, like looking at me drive off. And I felt like something or someone like jumped me. Well, I think there's actually 2 possible explanations. One is I was like somehow saved from this thing hitting me. And the other possibility, I think, is that it wasn't real. It was a vision or a holograph or whatever that was presented to me in order to basically scare me and get my adrenaline going. Because like I said, I was like over 20 hours into this drive, and I was not planning on stopping until I got to where I was going. But in reality, I was probably pretty close to falling asleep and not realizing it and crashing on these mountain roads. And so the other possibility is that it was something that was shown to me basically to wake me up and get me the adrenaline I needed in order to keep going. Because to say that I was wide awake the rest of that drive would be an understatement. Because I kept thinking I should be dead. That doesn't make any sense. And so that's another time that I felt like the veil between the supernatural spirit world and our reality thinned enough so that I was able to see into it. And then there's another instance that the only person that knows about it is Rena. I call it the blue light. And after it happened, I wrote it all down. And Rena's the only one I've shown. But it's something I would probably have to read because it's really involved, and so many details and so much happened that I would probably have to, not only would I have to read it, but I have photos that go with it. So it's sort of like I would have to read it and then put pictures up so that you could visualize where I was and what happened. But as of now, and that's the one I can't. If you ever hear that story, I don't know I don't know what happened. I still cannot tell you what happened that night. But something really, really weird happened, and I don't know what I was supposed to learn from it, because when I think back on it, I don't know if there's anything about what happened that night that really changed anything for me, other than that I know for a fact that there's like another world, another realm, another dimension that's around us at all times that we just generally don't see. But if my gut feeling about what CERN is trying to do is, if I'm right or close to right, I think these really weird sort of encounters with the other side that a lot of us have had is going to become common, and pretty much everybody is going to start experiencing and seeing things that I think at first they will say they won't have an explanation for it, but I think pretty quickly it's going to become rather obvious that it's these entities that aren't probably necessarily supposed to be here, materializing in our reality. And I think that seeing really, really weird shit is going to become commonplace. I hope not, but I just don't see what other reason there is for CERN. I mean, unless they're trying to, I don't know. I can't think of anything positive that CERN. Somebody should stop them. I don't know if it's too late already, but I mean, I can't believe that. Well, I can believe it because everything is controlled. But if this reality that we live in was real and not scripted, things like CERN, it wouldn't be allowed, and people would just put a stop to it, because nothing good can come from it. The fact that not only does CERN still exist, that there's a lot of people that think it's awesome, and they're trying to go bigger, like the Large Hadron Collider that they have. I think they're making one that's far larger, and it's nonsense. And if what we called reality was real, nobody put up with that nonsense, the shit they're doing, and the effects that it could have. Nobody would allow this nonsense, but we do. So yeah, I was at work today, in my head, I was running through all this stuff, and the full armor of God came up, and because of something I was thinking, the answer was the armor, and now I don't even remember what that was all about. So, but yeah, I mean, the full armor of God, when people hear that phrase, they in their head they see like a Roman soldier with like a breastplate and a helmet. But that's not what the full armor of God is. I'm sure all of you know that, but that's a misconception that a lot of people have, is that it's like this physical battle gear that you put on. But, yeah, I wish I remember what I was thinking about when the armor of God popped into my head, thinking, well, that's the solution for that little issue. But now I don't know what that issue was, because I think of stuff so rapidly that a lot of times, by the time I'm on to something else, I don't remember what the last thing was. Are you still there, Rita? How you doing, Nick? Who else is on here? Did I see Sappers? That whole blue light thing that happened to me, it wasn't an abduction. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know what it was all about and why it happened to me. I don't know what it was supposed to mean. It did not feel like biblical in any way. It didn't feel demonic. I don't know. I have no idea what the hell that was. Rena had to go. Yeah, that whole thing, it just left me with way more questions than answers. I don't see how what happened answered any questions. It just presented a ton of new ones. So, Nick, you don't even have any hair to cut. You're almost bald. Where do you get your haircuts? You do that at home, or do you go somewhere? Are there fires near you, Mark? I don't know why I always get you confused with Bob Barker, there's no reason why I should. Mark and Bob, it's not even, I don't know. For some reason, though, that's why I thought you wrote me that email the other day and it was Bob. So I'm horrible with names. Great with faces, though. You're getting smoke from California? Your hair grew 2 inches? What are you talking about? I don't think you even have 2 inches of hair, do you? I don't know. You've always got that hat on. Yeah, Bob is a good man. I think I'm going to get a haircut too. This one, right? One of these. That one right there. I'm going to cut that one. So you're getting smoke from California, so that means the smoke is going like northeast. Because those fires in California are down there a ways. Are you in southern Utah or Idaho or further up? Yeah, I don't know. I get Mark and Bob confused, and there's no reason for it. I don't know. So yeah, I don't know. Like I was talking about the spiritual warfare and like the veil. I think it's either thinning, or someone like CERN or somebody poked a hole in it, opened a door. I think we're going to start seeing a lot more stuff, and I think we're seeing some evidence of that with some of the stuff that's being seen in the skies. There's just these people that are catching like that video in Minneapolis where they blamed it on seagulls. It's like those white lights streaking around in the sky. I guess some people call them orbs or whatever, but the number of these white glowing things in the air is really on the increase. People are starting to see them a lot. And also the blood moons. Did you know? And the eclipses. First of all, blood moons have always historically been a really bad omen for Israel. I guess historically, anytime there's a blood moon, right after that, something bad happens to Israel. Last Friday, we had that huge blood moon. And as far as I know, I don't really follow the news because I think it's all horseshit and made up. I haven't heard anything happening to Israel since last Friday, but there's another, or maybe two. There's like, I don't know. Like I said, I don't really follow the news. I just see like headlines go by sometimes. Something about there's either a partial lunar and a partial solar, or two partial lunars, or there's like two eclipses happening again already. And you know, the Bible tells us in the end times there will be signs in the sky, and of course the sun is just being really weird. I'm not seeing it as much here as I did before I moved. Last summer, I saw some really, I could tell that there was something with the sun that was just wrong last summer. It burned the skin just immediately on contact, like you were, somebody was holding a magnifying glass up. I mean, it hurt immediately. And then one day at work, something about the sun just seemed off. So I looked at it. I know you're not supposed to, but I did. And I saw it was like a honeycomb pattern. Like the whole sun looked like a honeycomb, had the hexagons in it. And so I knew that was something was up with that. That wasn't the sun. And but here, although it's hot as hell, it's not the same. Like the sun doesn't hurt like it did before I moved here. And as far as I can tell, it behaves like the sun. But the moon is still being really weird. The moon's orbit is slower than the Earth's rotation. That's why it takes the moon allegedly 28 days to orbit Earth, because its orbit is, I mean, it's fast, but this is, you got to understand when I describe this. This is the heliocentric model. This is what they tell us. I don't believe it. But what they tell us, it's 238,000 miles away, so it goes around us once every 28 days, which means it's traveling really fast, but it's so much further out that it's got a much larger orbit to make. So if the moon takes 28 days to go around us, then every 24 hours, like say 8 o'clock at night, every night at 8 o'clock, the moon should be right where it was the previous night, except a little bit ahead of it. So like, let's say to the west of where it was at the exact same time the previous night. So the moon's on this path, and when it goes around once, it goes around twice, it should be a little bit ahead of where it was at the same time 24 hours earlier. But I've been watching it, and it jumps all over the place. It can be like here at 8 o'clock at night, and then 24 hours later, when it should be here, it's over here, like in the east or the northeast, and it should be like in the south going to the west. It's like not even, and I don't know, maybe it's me, maybe I'm wrong, but it seems to me the moon shouldn't jump all over the sky like that every 24 hours. It should be relative to where it was the previous day. The only thing that should be different is it should be a little bit ahead of where it was, and the phase of the moon should be either waxing or waning. It should be a little bit closer to full, or it should be waning, towards a new moon. But its position in the sky, it could be, it seems almost random. The other night I was talking to Rena on the phone, and this again proves to me that we don't live on a heliocentric ball, because if the moon is 238,000 miles away, then as long as it's nighttime, and to make the moon easier to see, and so it stands out, there's a dark sky and this light, it shouldn't matter that she's in Michigan and I'm in Arizona. I should be able to see the moon in the sky because it's 238,000 miles away and it's nighttime. But she was describing the moon and how weird it was, so I went outside to see it, and it wasn't there. It's like, how can I not see the moon if she can see it? If it's that far away, pretty much anywhere, anywhere where it's dark, you should see it on the globe, anywhere. Because no matter where you are on half the ball, if the moon is so far away, everybody can see it. But I couldn't see it. I had to wait several hours before it started coming up on my horizon, which describes the flat Earth perfectly, because if it's making a circuit around a flat plane and she's here and sees it, but I'm over here, it's still below my horizon line. It's too far away. It has to get closer before it comes up over my horizon and I can see it because of the vanishing point. So she's describing the moon. She took a picture of it, sent it to me, and I'm like, and there was not a single cloud here. It was just black sky and stars and no moon. It's like, that's not possible. I should have been able to see the moon if it's 238,000 miles away, then being 1,500 miles as the crow flies from her should make no difference. It should still be up in the sky. But I literally had to wait for the moon to get to me. But when she did take the picture and took it and sent it to me, she was right. It was like this half moon, but it was like orange with like this glow. It was really weird looking. And I can only imagine that in person, because your phone's only going to do so much, but in person, I'm sure it was completely insane looking. And in the photo, it was like she literally at first didn't know if it was the moon or not. She's like, it doesn't look like the moon. Something's weird. And she was freaking out. And I said, take a picture. But even though I knew that camera phone's not going to do it justice, but I was like, well, take a picture. And then I said, I'm going to go outside and see what you're seeing. Take a look. And I couldn't see it, which made no sense on a ball. It makes perfect sense on the flat Earth. But my point was the signs in the skies. The moon, it's looking weird. It's doing a lot of blood moons and lunar eclipses. And the color is weird. Its location is jumping all over the place. It's just like I said, to me, before I moved last summer, the sun to me was being really weird and it was doing things that didn't make sense. Now, to me, the moon is being really weird. And I don't know if any of you pay attention to the moon, if go out every night, see where it's at as compared to the night before. The color, the size. When I was driving down here, when I was in the vicinity of southeastern Oregon, northeastern California, and the moon was it was so big. I'd never seen it that big. It was like a quarter, like holding a quarter. It was ridiculous how large it was. It's just being weird, and like I said, I just don't think people pay attention to this shit because I think the moon's position in the sky every night. You should see stuff on the news where people are questioning it, saying, "Hey, scientists, what's the deal with the moon? Why is it like here one night and over there the next night?" None of it makes any sense. But yeah, I have a friend right now who is under what I believe to be spiritual attack. And that's one of the reasons that I had the Ephesians 6:12 up on the screen, is because of the spiritual warfare that we're dealing with. We're not dealing with people in this war we're in right now. I'm sure we'll get into a physical person war. It seems like there's plenty of entities that are just dying for World War III. It's like you can't get here fast enough. So I'm sure we'll get to that. But currently, we're fighting a battle, a spiritual battle. You can even see it in a lot of the people. There's people who, you see photos of them or you see them being interviewed, and if you just look in their eyes, it's like a vessel that's been overtaken. Like I don't see a person in there anymore. And if you look into the Nephilim, they had physical bodies, but they had no soul. Just as how their disembodied spirits, after they die, the demons have to have a host. They have to possess a host in order to have a physical body. And individuals that are possessed by a demon, I think you can see it in their eyes. I've always said, they can replicate humans all they want in whatever technology they use to either clone or make whatever. If you look in the eyes, you can tell, because that's one thing they cannot replicate, because the eyes are the window to the soul. That's pretty much every saying has its roots in truth, and there's a reason why that saying exists. And I think the reason that saying exists is because it's true. The eyes are the windows to the soul. You can look at the eyes and you can tell whether or not they have a soul. And that's probably like a fail-safe that God put in place, saying that any abominations, the way to tell is to look them in the eye. And there's a lot of celebrities and others that, if you really just look at their eyes, I don't think they're human, or at least not. They're not all human. They may have some human in them, but so that's what we're up against right now. We're up against a spiritual battle, and my friend is definitely under attack. And all you can do is offer advice and words of encouragement, but these battles, we have to. It's just like you and God. But if you don't ask God for help, it's probably not just going to step in. You have to ask. You must ask Jesus, the angels, whatever. You have to ask them. You have to give them permission to intervene in your life. And then not only that, but then you have to see the signs and act on them. I know that I've had several instances in my life where, in hindsight, it was obvious what was going on, but in the moment, I was completely oblivious. I didn't see the obvious because I wasn't looking for it. I was too wrapped up in, materialism and, physical pleasures and alcohol and drugs and all the trappings that the devil uses to take us away from God. I was knee deep in that shit, so I didn't see it, and so especially with like drugs and alcohol, I think God gave me more than enough chances to like snap out of it on my own. And at one point where he was like, it was pretty obvious that I wasn't going to. I hit rock bottom several times and just dusted myself off and kept going. It was, in hindsight, it's like, it was insane. But I think God had other plans for me, and so he intervened. And even though I used to be able to, I could drink ridiculous amounts of alcohol. One day I woke up, and if I smell alcohol, my stomach starts turning, and if I was to taste it, I get violently ill off like sip. And I think that was God's way of saying, if you're not going to figure this out on your own, then I'm just going to make it so you don't have a choice. Okay, now that you got your shit together and you're clear-headed, it still took me a few years after that. It's a process. Nobody just wakes up one day and is 180 degrees different. For me, it was little pieces. I got off drugs and alcohol and thought that I was, awake, but I still believed in space and UFOs and aliens and just all the nonsense and lies that Satan wants us to believe in, because it disproves God. If there's infinite space and galaxies and nebulas and wormholes and aliens coming from Alpha Centauri, then how could there be a God? Because there's it's just, especially if you read Genesis and it tells you that you live in a flat, enclosed, stationary terrarium, then how does that explain the aliens? It's like, well, they're out there in space, and the Bible says there is no outer space. So if you believe in the aliens, you, by default, disbelieve in God. So yeah, that was 2 years ago. If you'd have told me that I would have the knowledge of what UFOs and aliens really are, I would have laughed at you and told you were nuts. I was totally sold. When I lived in New Mexico, I used to go to Roswell all the time and go to the UFO museum and just, marvel at the fact that all their street lights in Roswell are alien grays. Oh, how cool is that? It's like, it's not cool at all. But that's where I was at, man. What are we going to do with you, Nick? I got to see the chat here, see what's going on. Yeah. So like I said, I don't remember all the specifics as to what I was going to talk about, but I don't know. I think the fact that my friend is under this attack, and I feel really helpless to do anything, is kind of what got me thinking about all this stuff and deciding to do the live stream. And then by the time I put up the video saying there was going to be a live stream, I sort of forgot all the stuff that I wanted to talk about, but it was kind of too late. But it is what it is. Are you lagging or me? It could be me. I think in this house, I think I'm like about as far away from the router as I can be. It's like, I think it's at the complete opposite end of the house. So the internet connection might slow down sometimes. Who else still here? I don't even know. I just was rambling. I don't know. My little Wi-Fi icon is like almost full, but not quite. It's like one bar away from full. So I don't know. But hi, Wild Republic. I don't know if I know who you are, but you're here, so you're cool. Listening to me ramble about nonsense. So we Friday night we were going to go out and do the desert night walk. Apparently that's been moved to Saturday, which you know, a little disappointed, but actually, since it'll give me, it's actually a good thing. I think that if after, you know, the work week and getting off work Friday and then going out Friday night to the desert, I think having that one day to get some good sleep is, I think it's going to be a good thing. I'm really excited about Saturday night. Actually, I think it's going to be interesting because I'm taking the. This is a full spectrum camcorder. I don't know if it'll show on here, but when you look through it, it's kind of a purple pink. Probably not going to show very well. It's got kind of a purplish pink hue to it because it doesn't have an ultraviolet or a infrared filter in it. It lets in that light spectrum. So, and then I have this light that's ultraviolet. The top row is ultraviolet, and if I turn this on or if I screw it, I'll try and cover it up. You'll see the very top row of lights doesn't even come on. Hard to see. It's kind of reflecting the light from the second row of lights, but they're all different spectrums. This top row isn't, you don't see anything, but that's because it's ultraviolet, but it actually is emitting light. So that, along with my, let's see here. I just got this last week. This headlamp, it's supposed to be 5,000 BTUs or lumens. I don't know if I buy that because the description on Amazon said 5,000 lumens, but the box that came in and the little like book that came with it and everything doesn't mention lumens at all. It doesn't say, you know, 500 lumens, 100. It doesn't say. So I don't know if they were just 5,000 lumens. To me seems a bit ridiculous, but that's what it said. And like I said, but the box in the book didn't say anything. But It is bright. I'll tell you that. When you turn all 3 lights on, it's brutal. So between that and the, sorry, I got to try and plug it back in. This has, it runs on these, they're basically like the same batteries that I have in my vape, as far as I can tell. They're not like you can't buy these. These aren't AA's. These are 3.7 volt, 3000 milliamp somethings, rechargeable. So I have to keep it plugged in, but I'm hoping that between the, I think that's charging, between that ridiculously bright light and the full spectrum camera and that light, and I'm going to take this, this is a black light, or also known as the Scorpion Finder, because I had I found a dead bark scorpion at work yesterday or today, I don't remember. But the only thing I would say when we went camping that we didn't see was the scorpion. But the reason I say that is because the bark scorpion is the exact color of the sand, dirt, and wood. They're very, very, very hard to find or to see. And they're pretty small, I would say. Like the one I saw at work yesterday, it was about full size, like that. So you have to be really like hunting for them, and I think this will help me find them. But Mike and I were talking about getting another like terrarium, like maybe on Craigslist or something, as like maybe a house terrarium to keep in the living room or in the kitchen or something, and putting one of the getting a tarantula, because there are so many of them out there. They're everywhere. We were thinking about maybe making like a house pet out of one of them, but as of right now, we don't have like I have the 2 tanks back there with my tarantulas in them, but we don't have a 3rd tank to put one in. But it could happen. We might get a tarantula out there and make it our contingency plan mascot pet. I don't know. So, and like we already talked about, I'm not going to take an AR this time. I'm going to take my shotgun, because if we come across, I've now seen 4 rattlesnakes in person, and if I see number 5, it's not getting away. The last time we just didn't have the correct lighting or shotgun. I had this headlamp, and the battery, I think the battery on it was basically pretty much dead. Well, it wasn't dead, but it's so dark out there that unless your light is strong, if you just have an average light, it almost doesn't do anything for you. Hey, Bob. We were talking about you earlier. Did Rena say where she was going or why she had to run? I somehow missed all that. So I don't know. I don't know what else there is to talk about. Get in this chat and totally piss Nick off. Come back from his haircut and be nobody here. Hey, Sappers, did you just get here or have you been here a while? You've been here for a while. Yeah, I don't know what the correct number of lumens. I just don't think 5,000 is, it seems a bit excessive, but it's bright, very bright. So yeah, I'm looking forward to, because the last time we did the desert, we did like 2 walks that night. They weren't planned. Like, I think I went off walking by myself, and then I came back, and then Mike must have thought it sounded interesting, so he's like, we went and then came back, and I don't even remember why we decided to go a third time. We really liked it. It was fun, and but it wasn't planned. So this time, that's the whole point of why we're going, is just to walk at night and then come back the same night. So I think it's going to be much more productive. We're going to be, I don't know, you usually learn stuff when you do it. So the next time, of course, the last time I was complaining the whole time, Michael backed me up. I basically complained about the lighting situation. So I think I have that solved. And I also complained about using the GoPros because they make everything so much further away. And a lot of the things that we saw, like that bird, the couple times I got it on the camera, it looks like it's 50 feet away, and it was like 10 feet away. So, and then the jackrabbit that I saw and shot at, the GoPro didn't even pick that up at all. So I'm hoping that by taking this different camcorder, that things will at least look much closer and people will actually see them. Hello, LM. Yeah, we're just on here causing trouble. But I've been trying not to make these chats last too long because I think when people see that there's a video and then they see it's 2 hours long, I know that there's not much, 2 hour long videos that I'll watch because that's just a lot of video. But I'm trying to keep them just shorter. But there was one thing I wanted to do real quick. I actually meant to do this at the very beginning, and I apologize for not doing it at the beginning, but maybe when people watch the re-upload of this, they'll get something out of it. But I wrote down a bunch of, I've made like 2 videos of YouTube channel suggestions, and I don't want to make any more of those, so I'm gonna just put up a list of channels that that I recommend to people, as far as channels that I subscribe to, that I like. And I was just gonna real quick go through them. Some of these are channels of people I consider friends or subscribers of the contingency plan. So I was just going to run through them real quick. Pastor Dean Odell is his channel. I do not miss any videos by him. If he posts a video, his are all about anywhere from 1 to 2 hours in length, because they're like his Sunday sermons that he does. Basically, he records the whole thing and they broadcast it. I think so. He comes up. I think he posts a new video like every Sunday. But he's just an awesome pastor. Rob Skiba, the same way. He's not a pastor, but I don't miss any of his videos, and he does a lot of research, and he's a filmmaker, so he writes books and produces films. I like his stuff. Quantum of Consciousness. Matt used to have a channel called Texas Shrugged that YouTube took down, and he came back as Quantum of Consciousness. So he doesn't have a ton of videos right now because he started over. But again, I do not miss any of his videos. I love his videos. He actually came out with one today that I watched before I went live. And then Russian Vids Archives. It's interesting because if you look at the name of it, it seems like someone just took a bunch of Russian Vids old videos from before he got kicked off YouTube and archived them. But that's not what it is. It's actually Russian Vid's new channel, and it's him, and it's current. Like he posted, I think, 2 videos today. They're brand new. So if you like Russian Vids, ever followed his stuff, that's his legit YouTube channel, current YouTube channel, Russian Vids Archives. Nick Makes Preps. He's in the chat. I like his channel. Nick is often a guest on my live streams, and interesting, his mom got him into my channel and told him to watch one of my videos, and he actually didn't want to watch it because he was busy. But apparently she was insistent, and the rest is history. Ryan Rice is, I don't know if he's a pastor. I think he might be. I'm not totally sure, but he does a show live with Ryan Reese, and so Ryan Reese is. I like his channel. It's good. I don't know what his position on the biblical cosmology is. I don't know. I don't know if he's still a heliocentric, deceived individual, or I don't know. Meigs B is a good channel. She does. I've followed her for probably like 2 years now. I think I started following her about the same time I started following Rena's channel, so it's been like 2 years. Meigs B, she does a lot of Mandela stuff, but she also does a lot of TI, gang stalking targeted individuals. So if you're interested in either, and her Mandela effect is pretty much all centered on biblical changes. So she doesn't really do like Kit Kat and that kind of stuff. She does changes that she finds in the Bible. Of course, Rena. Most everybody here knows and loves Miss Rena. Norwegian, who I don't think he's in the chat, but he just started putting videos on his channel, and he's doing he does preppers. He's doing like everyday carry bags and stuff like that. So if you're into prepping and bug out bags and that kind of stuff, Norwegian Nightmare, absolutely. You should subscribe. Jay Myers Documentaries. He does like full on professional quality documentaries. They're not real long. They're usually like, I don't know, probably in the 30 to 45-minute range, but they're very professionally done. And so he doesn't do a lot of videos because I think they probably take him a while to make. But when he does post one, they're really good. Jackhammer Mike, you're all familiar with. He and I, like I said, will be going out this Saturday night into the desert. And Gen 6 Productions does really good documentary films on, well, basically Genesis related. The Nephilim, a lot of that. This is basically, if you've ever heard of Steve Quayle, this is Steve Quayle's channel. Small Town Conspiracy, one of my favorite channels. He lives in Indiana, and he just messaged me today that he got a microphone, and I believe the way I read it, he was on his way to picking up a laptop. So I don't know if he plans on doing his own live streams, but I do plan on having him on my live streams. So at least get him on there at least once. Jason H is another regular here on this contingency plan channel. Jason is the one who actually had the bolt cutter stickers made. So anybody that has a bolt cutter sticker, you have Jason to thank for that. He's got a channel called Jason H3C. The Fighter Inside is another channel. I like her stuff. She doesn't post a lot. Her videos can be sometimes 2 or 3 months apart, but she's interesting because she really hates the beast system, and she goes off on it. It's pretty fun to watch. Zappers, who I believe is in the chat, or he was if he's not still. He will be coming here the end of October to Run and Gun with me and Jackhammer Mike. So expect to see more from him. Somebody Had to Say It is an old friend of mine. She hasn't made a video since she lives in Hawaii, and basically since that all that shit started in Hawaii with the volcano, I think I've heard from her once. Like, she emailed me and told me she was okay, but I haven't heard from her since, and I haven't seen her make a video. So her channels get yanked off. They get shut down, and she gets kicked off Facebook like once a month. So I don't know if her channel still even exists, because like I said, they take her down all the time. Revolver Tactics 6-gun also can be seen on these chats. He's on here sometimes. I think he's got 3 or 4 videos up so far, all about revolvers. JCB is another subscriber to the contingency plan, and he lives just south of us in Tucson. He actually is the one that gave me the Vaseline cotton ball with the wax on it that I used to start the fire that I lit when we went camping last time, a couple weekends ago. And the Bible Project is a really cool channel. They basically take books in the Bible and they animate them and turn them into these like kind of really cool animations that kind of explain what the Bible is saying. makes it a lot easier to understand when you see it kind of illustrated. And I think I put 2 mirrors up on my channel. One was like the book of Genesis and one was Revelations or something. Those are the Bible Project. Those are that's where those came from. They're really a cool channel. And then Millennial Prepper is also a subscriber to this channel, and she hasn't made a video in, I'd say, probably 3 or 4 months, which is unfortunate because I love her videos, but haven't seen her in quite some time. But I would suggest subscribing to it just in case she makes some more videos. Now, the way that I spelled or wrote out the channels on this list is exactly the way they appear on YouTube, down to the case, like Small Town Conspiracy. The T and the C are lowercase. That's exactly how they are. That's how I put it down. If you're looking for these channels, what I would suggest, like if you were going to do, let's say, like just for example, like Ryan Reese, you know, just put the word channel after the name. So like Russian Vids Archives channel, Nick Makes Preps channel, and it should pop right up. So anyway, I just wanted to put this list of YouTube channels that I really like, in case anybody is looking for some stuff. There's a suggestion list. Yeah, I think from what I heard today from him, Small Town should be, he should have the what he needs to join one of my chats and host his own. I hope he does host his own. That'd be cool. I'd like to see him do a live stream. Bye, Mark Johnson. Okay, so I'm glad I remembered about the list of channels. I really wanted to get that out there. But that's all I have for now. I'm going to drink a whole bunch of water now. So I will talk to you all soon. Peace. We should have some really good video post Saturday night when we do our desert walk. Still trying to come up with a name for doing that, going out in the desert in the middle of the night for no reason other than to possibly get bit by a rattlesnake. I don't know. I was thinking we could go with maybe something Spanish. So noches or something. I don't know. We'll think of something. We need a name for walking aimlessly out in the desert at night. So I'll talk to you all later. Thanks for all your support and everything. I appreciate it. And remember, bolt cutters are too heavy. Peace.